SS3 Talk, let's talk. We'll be embarking on a journey with an inspirational lady who's been living with HIV. My sister, could you kindly take us through the journey?
My name is Mpotaba. I am 44 years old. I have been living with HIV for the past 23 years. I first tested HIV positive in 1998. I just suffered a miscarriage at the time. And when the doctor took bloods and then he said to me, "Can I see you in a week's time?" I went back and he told me that I tested positive to HIV. I don't know, I didn't get so much of a reaction towards it because I think at the time I was shocked and there were a lot of emotions going through, a lot of questions based on the condition at the time when things were so bad for us that remember the stigma, and it's something that families didn't want to talk about at the time. And I just made a conscious decision after walking out of the doctor's room that I'm not going to share this with anybody else, including my partner at the time. And I kept quiet about it and I continued with my life. Unfortunately, I know that was irresponsible of me, but it's just that at the time I couldn't deal with it. And in 2003, I joined a very big financial institution and they had a wellness, and I decided to do another test. Unfortunately, the second time around, the results came back positive. And I was dating someone who has just recently tested for their HIV, and I remember my boyfriend had his results plugged on the fridge, and he kept urging me to go, "Babe, go do yours." And I went like, "No, I'll do that. If you are negative, chances are I'm negative. Why do I need to? Because we're not using protection. We're okay. So what was the point for me to go and test for HIV? If you are negative, I'm negative." But again, that was not the right thing to do. The test came back and the tests were positive. So indeed, I was HIV positive. Besides the fact that I had denied it in 1998. So this was 2003. I realized now this is the truth. I cannot run away from this. I have to face my family. I thought of my mother, my dad, my siblings. Most I thought about my daughter because my daughter was still at primary school at the time. Will I make it? Will I see my daughter make it to high school? My dream is to see my daughter graduating, getting that qualification. And with so many deaths that were happening in Alex at the time, I was worried. Will I make it? How do I tell people that I'm HIV? People are gonna say, "Oh no, she deserves it." Because I grew up being this rebellious, the naughtiest child of all my siblings, who has been active the whole time. So I had to come clean this time, and I broke the news to my family, and I told my family, and I told then my partner, who was supportive. My family was very supportive. I could see the disappointment on my parents' faces. I can never forget that day, but they were very supportive, and they told me that this is our problem. We will go through this together. This is our baby, and this is our problem. We will help you. But at the time, I couldn't even digest everything that was said because I realized that I was actually HIV positive. I went home. I was given time off by my employer at the time because I wasn't coping mentally. And I went home, I started getting sick. I lost so much weight. So much weight in just a couple of weeks, because then I knew that I was dying. In my mind, I kept saying, I am dying. I'm not gonna make it. I started making debts. I started shopping. I started spending money because I knew I didn't have a purpose. But regardless of everything that I did carelessly, my daughter was my concern. Will I live to see this girl graduate? Because that was my biggest dream. That was my biggest. I remember one day lying in bed, having these conversations with God, saying, God, what do I do? Who do I go to? Do I go back and tell my previous partners that, dudes, I've tested positive to HIV, knowing that I have put them at risk, having sex with them without a condom? No, it was not gonna happen. That was not gonna happen. And where do I start? Here I am, have a very supportive partner who's with me, who's willing to walk with me. But again, that fear, because everyone around me in the township is dying. And they're dying due to HIV and AIDS related issues. And if you remember, at the time, we never had treatment. I'm not sure when treatment was rolled out in Joburg, but at the time when I was diagnosed, we never had treatment. And I had these conversations with myself. I think I got so tired of exhausting myself. The second thing was I also attempted to commit suicide. I took a whole dose of tablets because I wanted to take my life. I didn't want HIV to take my life. I decided to take my life. And then I realized again, what will my daughter say? How is she going to feel when she finds out that her mother passed away because she killed herself because she found out that she was HIV positive? Clearly there are ways that I can turn this situation. But at the time, I didn't even know how to change the whole perception around that. And I went back to work. I was numb, and my employer then asked me how they can help to make sure, because I was working as a front desk receptionist, and it was affecting me because I was dealing with a lot of people, incoming clients. I would snap, I would scream, I would do all those sort of things. And then I went for counseling, and I met some other people who were in the same condition, who spoke so openly about their conditions. And I started also attending few classes with them, equipping myself just to make sure that I am fully aware of the virus and how I can be able to. But again, the shame that I brought to my family, because I couldn't forgive myself for that. I come from a very well-respected, my dad was very well-respected, and not that because my dad was well-respected is I couldn't get HIV, but because of I felt like I have let my family down by bringing this filthy disease that at the time that was pursued. But it's not. And no one is immune to HIV. I had it, and I couldn't even turn the situation. What I needed to do at the time is I needed to find ways on how to make sure that I sustain and live a longer life. I reached out to friends out of frustrations. Friends used to gossip. Friends would tell others that, oh, she tested HIV positive. Every day was a challenge. Every day was a challenge. I would just come and attend a party and everyone was staring at me, and I knew immediately what was said about me. And I started isolating myself. I'm an outgoing person, my personality, everything just went from there to here because of the fear that I had. Even though my family was there 24/7 for me, my younger sister was there walking me through, my mom, my dad, my siblings, my brother, all of them. My daughter. But there was this fear in me that kept saying that you cannot win this battle. You cannot win this battle. And one day, when you have these conversations with yourself, one day, I just like snapped out of nowhere and said, no, actually, you can turn this whole situation. How about you use you, I use myself, and start speaking about my journey with HIV and see how that could turn. And I did exactly that. I would sit in a taxi and I would start a conversation about HIV and AIDS, and just to get the other person feedback, to hear what they know and how and all that. And I said to this person, if I were to tell you that I'm HIV positive, what will you do? And this person was like, no ways, you're looking healthy. And I said, no, I am actually. And I started doing slowly, but doing that surely. And I remember I met this guy. I used to love this guy. And immediately when I told him that I tested HIV to HIV, he just said, no, we can't do this. We can't do this. And I don't blame him, because at the time he didn't know. I take myself and put myself back in that situation back a few years ago. He never knew about it. We have this fear because we don't really know what is happening. But then years passed by, paid off my bills, the debts that I had. I lived, every year I lived, and I realized that actually I'm not going anywhere. I'd rather make peace with this HIV and make this HIV my best friend. And actually, I did that, exactly that. I started reading, I started researching, I started learning more about it, using the company internet to Google to find out more facts about it. I met people who had the virus, who had been living with the virus. But most importantly, I think one thing that I did good justice about it is when I started speaking about my condition, that eased everything. The burden was off my shoulders. The more I talked about it, the more the problem started going slowly. Yes, it took so much of my years, but I realized I had to, this is what I had to, and I put my foot down. I went to family gatherings knowingly that I was the talk of town, and I couldn't care at the time. And my mom was so embarrassed, shame at the time, and she would say, please don't talk about it. We joke about it now, we make a joke about it now, and we are okay. And I don't blame her for doing that, because at the time we didn't know how to. But I found out talking about something, acknowledging that this is what is happening about yourself, getting help, speaking, eventually you get tired of exhausting yourself and making yourself worried. So I'm saying to anyone who has tested HIV to a positive to HIV, it's not the end of the world. I have actually a Facebook page where I share mostly the valuable information about living with the virus. And I have other companies that I've subscribed to that they send me notifications on a weekly basis that I learn from. And I share this information with the outside world for free on my Facebook page. So I came to realize that actually you can live. And I have other more, I'm 44 this year, and I'm going to make it to 60 living with HIV. HIV is manageable, and you can live so long with it.